Coming up on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell, my co-host Ron Richards, and our guest, Annyce Davis from Meetup.com. And we start the show off with a nice interview with Annyce around Android 12's rollout and her developer perspectives on that. Some fascinating stuff. You don't want to miss it. Also, Pixel 6 phantom calling bug. More than a butt dial. This is different, okay? Balmuda Phone, which actually kind of reminds us of a Moto X or a Palm Pre. Galaxy Buds Pro, that might not be so good for your ears. Maybe be careful putting those in there. Plus your email and more, a whole lot more coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This podcast is supported by AT&T Active Armor. Cooking between meetings, helping with homework, or walking the dog, work from home is distracting already. And when you finally get down to work and focus, well, wouldn't you know it, the phone rings and it's a fraud call. Don't let fraud calls disrupt your flow. AT&T makes your security a top priority, helping block fraud calls with AT&T Active Armor. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor 24/7 proactive network security, fraud call blocking, and spam notifications to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. Hello and welcome to All About Android. This is episode 551, recorded on Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Your weekly source for latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell's evil twin.
And I'm the good side of All About Android, Ron Richards, with my nice, clean-shaven, non-charity driving face. No, I'm joking. Exactly. Jason, you might be an evil twin, but you are far better than me because you are raising money with your facial hair. I donated. Everybody should donate.
Thank you,
You're
Ron.
actually like the third or fourth person I donated to this year doing the Movember thing.
Oh, really? Right on.
Yeah.
Ron's got deep pockets, everyone. Fire up your November now and let him know. No,
it's to make up for the guilt for not participating because I just can't stand facial hair. So
yeah, it's a weird thing, this whole facial hair experiment. It's still very uncertain as far as how I feel about it. But thank you for pitching in, Ron, and thanks to everyone who has a number of fans, listeners, and viewers have pitched in, and that's really great. Just go to my Twitter profile at Jason Howell if you want to find out more information. It's pinned up at the top. Joining us tonight, I am super excited to welcome for the first time Annyce Davis, Senior Director of Engineering at Meetup and Google Developer expert in the world of Android, which is why you're here today. Thank you so much for hopping on with us today, Annyce.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited as a fan of the show to get to participate.
Oh, right
I did not know that. Oh,
I didn't know that either.
Well, Annyce, that changes evering. My word. It's just
I know, I'm a little nervous now.
Usually
Ask
we're
me easier questions now.
we're usually used to guests not knowing who we are or anything like that. And it makes it a little easier. Now I feel a little pressure. But Annyce, I got to tell you, I Meetup has a warm place in my heart because many moons ago, early in my career, I used to attend the New York Tech Meetup back in the Web 2.0 days, and which was like organized. I'm pretty sure it was organized by the founder of Meetup, and was like graciously hosted by Meetup, and it was actually a meetup amongst New York tech folks. And it was great because it was like, this must have been like 2005, 2006 or so, and it was before I moved to San Francisco. It was before I really started working at startups, and it was just really fascinating to watch startups and developers get up and like pitch their ideas, and to a very hostile New York crowd. So much so that after a few months they had to, and just to paint the picture for everyone, this was like a monthly meetup that was the location changed, but it was always in like a big hall, like it was a big auditorium, and these developers would get up in front of the crowd and they would basically pitch their startup, and the Meetup had to adopt a new rule that no one could interrupt the presenter, and we could not yell, "What's the business model?" Because every startup that went up there, everyone was like, "Well, how do you make money? What's the business model?" And it's like, no. So it's like, and those are some great times that I really look back fondly on. It was like my early kind of exposure to like entrepreneurial spirits and startups, and I made so many contacts there. So like Meetup, I feel the love for the work you're doing at Meetup all these years later. So, yeah.
I love it. That makes me so happy. I'm like, we're still here. We're still helping people.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean,
very cool.
That was one of the things that was kind of coming to mind while Ron, you were talking, is that Meetup. Like in my experience, I've definitely participated in a handful of meetups over the years as well, and it's very like when I think of Meetup, I think of in person. Like I think of like here's an event and we all go to the event. The last couple of years in many ways has been a challenge for all of us to in person anything, let alone a company who, at least in my mind, maybe you see it differently, but in my mind, I really associate it with that in person thing. How is that challenge like materialized for you guys? How have you navigated through that?
I think the main thing for Meetup is that we're really focused on facilitating human connection. So whether that's in real life or online, it really doesn't matter. And so over the past, I'll say about 2 years, we've been able to have I think it's at this point, over 2 million online events. So we just pivoted to support the current situation. Even now where people are starting to be vaccinated and feeling more comfortable being around others, we have safety precautions that are associated with events. So an organizer could say maybe like masks are required for this event, or you need to be vaccinated to attend this event. So we're still making sure that we are helping facilitate those connections. That's really the most important thing to us at Meetup.
Yeah. And it's been such a fascinating couple of years as far as accelerating the development around what you can offer online. Right? Like video technologies, yes, like Zoom, like we're using today, and, name your Zoom competitor. I think I just saw some news earlier that like Google Meet can support up to like 500 people on a single call now. So like these things are removing the barriers that once used to be there, also improving our comfort as users of using these things so that we aren't stuck in that paradigm of, in order to, meet and be with people of like-minded interests, I have to be in a place like physically with them. It's opened the door. It's opened the playing field for so much more as a result.
One thing I really love about it is I was speaking at a Meetup event and someone that I had met in Nigeria joined the event. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, there's no way that they would have been able to come to Maryland to hear me speak on this subject. But now they're able to join because it's online. So there's other things where it kind of makes the world feel a lot smaller, and you're able to have these connections that are just like really universal.
That's great.
Yeah, love that. Well, it's awesome having you on tonight. We're gonna, have a usual show going through news and stuff, but we also want to talk to you about kind of your thoughts around things like Android 12. What were you going to say?
Before we get into the Android 12, Annyce, for those of us, kind of watching who aren't aware of you, I would love for you to hear a little more about what you specifically do at Meetup, and then also our question that we ask every guest. What is your phone? What's your daily driver? What phone are you using these days?
Okay, sure. So I work as Senior Director of Engineering. That means that I'm helping to make sure the teams are delivering. I'm helping with strategy around like our API deployments. My specialty obviously is mobile development. So I oversee our mobile teams. One exciting project we're working on right now is a Kotlin multi-platform mobile application. So just like making sure things are moving forward, helping to establish the goals and the deliverables, and then also just helping engineers with their careers, whether they want to be individual contributors or they want to go towards like the management track. And then for the real question that everyone wants the answer to, my daily phone is a Pixel 3a XL. And let me explain.
Wow.
That's a good one. I like that one a lot.
It's because it works.
Nice. Yeah. It's a good reason.
I'm that person that's like, I have an OtterBox case. I treat it like a baby. So, I'm like, I don't want to buy a new one unless I actually need it. However, I do think I will buy the Pixel 6 because I've been hearing a lot of really good things about it. So I can use this 3A as like my backup phone for testing. So I think I will do that.
Well, hey, listen, I was gonna say I'm a big fan of the phone. If the phone works, don't change anything. Like I think that's totally fair, right? It is important to note that it did come out in 2019. So for those of you keeping track at home, that's almost 3 years. But it was May 2019, so 2020. So yeah, so a little 2.5 years since it's been out.
Yeah,
still getting updates.
So bad. Yeah, I have Android 12 on it. It's it's doing its thing. So that's what I'm using day to day.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that's fair.
Absolutely. So, I was a huge fan of that device when it launched. And,
I remember that. I remember.
Proud to say I still have it. I was doing a size comparison. Are you thinking the 6 or the 6 Pro when you go for the 6?
I think 6 because I think I want to have a slightly smaller phone this time.
Yeah. I honestly,
but hey, listen,
I'll do the 6 over the Pro.
We'll do the size comparison. Here's my Google Pixel 4a, and here's the 6. So
okay.
It's still a pretty big phone.
It's still
so that's
big. Okay. Okay. So is it like the same size as the 3A XL?
Just the out, I think. Do you have, Jason,
that would be my guess. I don't know.
They're like basically
I don't have the standard 6 in my room right now. But it is definitely so. Right now you're taking a look at the 3A XL. And then the 6, there is a case on here, so it's a little bit larger with the case on.
But it's pretty
the
close.
6.
Okay.
I'm guessing it's probably pretty darn close between the two.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll still go for the 6. It reminds me of like the Samsung Note that I used to have.
Nice.
This huge PDA phone, but yeah.
Yeah. Here, Burke whispered in my ear to do the side by side of the thickness, which they're about the same actually.
Yeah, really it's very similar. Okay.
So size wise, I think smaller. Yeah, I mean, size wise, you're gonna end up with a device that's about the same size. I'd say, if you're going for the 6.
Yeah, so it'll feel
any of the same cases.
No. Well, you can't use the same cases because of that camera bump.
Right.
So,
totally. Yeah, you're going to have to get a different case, but that's all right. That's all right.
Well, that's good. So now that we're level set, now that we know what you do on a daily basis, we know what phone you're using. Now I feel like we can get into it. So, so as far as working with a team of developers on a very popular service, very popular app, how did you and the team feel about Android 12 when you got your hands on it? Were there any particular pain points? Were there things that got you excited about it? Like, what was the developer reaction to Android 12?
I think so. There are so many little changes in Android 12 that first we had to say, okay, what is the thing that is like the breaking change? What, like, we have to fix this just to make sure the app runs on it. And it's something really small, but I would say it's how they changed like the component exporting. So I wrote down a couple of little notes about things that I saw that were like breaking changes. You can't even build anymore until you update these things. So that was one of them. And that's tricky because even if you go through your app and you do an audit of every single thing that's using intent filters, it could be a third-party library that's bringing something in that hasn't updated itself yet. So some of the changes it's a little bit outside of your control initially, where you can just say, oh, let me fix everything that they're saying in their checklist that changes in Android 12. And then, there's a third-party library that hasn't updated yet. Either I can harass that developer or I can find a way to try to override it myself. So I'll say that's the first example of something where it was a little bit of a pain in the butt to like slowly try to upgrade to Android 12.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about Android 12 through the lens of a developer and kind of what you prioritize, right? And I guess I hadn't considered that. With every OS change comes a number of updates, number of changes to APIs, all these all these different facets and everything. And you as a developer kind of have to take a look at each and every one of them and be like, all right, what is mission critical here, not just from a perspective of like, oh, we'd love to support that someday. Like we'd love to really capitalize on that feature and our users would really benefit from that. But holy cow, this breaks this thing and we need to address this top priority. That's interesting.
Every release, it's always the same. It's like, okay, try to build the app. What breaks?
Right.
Next. One good thing
so
though. Go for it.
How much of that is like what breaks it and fix it versus it broke it, I need to rewrite it. You know what I mean? Like do you ever get to a point where like this changed so much that we need to go even back before it broke and readjust or re-architect? I
would say maybe before Android 11, that could be the case. Yeah. One thing that they've done since Android 11 is they released this like app compatibility changes screen. So if you put your phone in developer mode, you can go to this particular screen in developer options for your app as a debug variant. And then you can say, okay, for example, turn on this new export restriction. And then you can turn everything else off for Android 12 except that. And now you can run your app and see how it behaves with export. And you can fix it one thing at a time instead of feeling like, oh no, I have all this stuff to change for Android 12. I have no idea what to start. You can like literally look at a list. It's a long list, by the way. But you can toggle it on one at a time and like, okay, I fixed that. Great. Now let me turn on the next one. Okay. Let me try this new permissions change. Got it. Now, like one by one. And I think that is just incredible that the Android team gave us this sort of capability as developers so that it doesn't feel as overwhelming. It's more like, okay, let's just tackle this one thing at a time and then we'll be where we need to be. And we have a whole year to get there. And I think that's more than fair.
Yeah. And you have a whole year to get there until we find out about Android 13, and then it all starts up from scratch, right? So basically,
and then you have to do it again.
Basically, how much of new versions of Android is just career security for you and your team?
Every new device. Yep. Oh, sorry, we gotta do more work there.
I mean, it's part of the wonderful aspect of working in digital stuff is that it's never finished. It's never done. So
it's never done. Yeah. It's never done ever. Yeah.
And there is never a point of relaxation either from the perspective of, you might be, I mean, at this point, Android 12 is officially out. You're probably still hard at work on manicuring your apps, to kind of fit that properly. But I mean, in a couple of months, let's be honest, in a few months, we're going to have the developer, the pre-release, developer preview of Android 13. Actually, it's going to be Android 12L, which we've talked about. That's like on the horizon for December, from what we understand. But I mean, soon after that, it's going to be Android 13. Like there's the way Google has its cadence of seeding these updates out, and then all the way out, 6 months later, it hits the official release, or maybe it's a little bit longer than that. There is no time to rest. You've always got something that's critical, I imagine.
You always have a maintenance track running. Like I always say, about 25% is some sort of maintenance or technical enhancements. So as much as the business would like to bring features, release new features, a lot of the work is going to still have to always be technical enhancements and maintenance for your product. Even I mentioned earlier, third-party libraries, those change every other day. So it's like, oh, okay, now we've upgraded. There's a new version of Dagger. There's a new version of Hilt. There's a new version of whatever. And let's see if this has any breaking changes for our application. So it's like a never-ending thing that you have to just account for when you're working in this space.
Yeah, that recently happened to me and my team. So Annyce, I have a small startup on the side, and we had a problem with the app, and we're trying to figure it out. And turns out there was a deep third-party library that was being retired, that we missed the notification on. We didn't see it. And so it was like a scramble to pull it all out and replace it with the thing that we had to and all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, it's not just the code you write and not just the code that Google provides. There's a whole bunch of stuff in between. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the programmer's woe. I mean, it's nice not to have to write every single thing from scratch, but now you're relying on another third party. So it's just like you have to sort of accept that risk.
Where question that I have has to do with one of Android 12's kind of premier, let's say, features, at least as far as its consumers are concerned, and that's Material You and the theming engine underlying Android 12. And I'm curious, as we're talking about prioritization of things, if you are a developer on Android, and particularly, I imagine in your position, like you've got a team, like you have the ability to kind of scale up and do things at a larger scale than more so than a single developer managing a single app or whatever. But when something comes along integrated into the OS that Google says is, marquee feature, AKA in this case, Material You and this theming engine, how much of a priority does something like that take for your team? Obviously, you've got your functional priorities that are like, this needs to happen, otherwise our app breaks or whatever. But then you've got this thing that your app is going to run fine if it doesn't adhere to Material You, but users are hoping for more app support around something like this. Where do you stand there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think back to when the Material theming came out, and if I look at our member application right now for Meetup, it's still not 100% on the Material theme. It's still using some app compat theming in certain very legacy portions of it. So when I think about Material You, I'm like, okay, that's cool. The color scheme is changing based on my wallpaper. That's very clever. I would probably focus on putting that in our new application for organizers that's built using Jetpack Compose, because I feel like the Material You theming library that they have for Jetpack Compose makes the integration a bit easier versus having to think through, okay, are we going to have to change all the style XML layout files and all these things to accommodate Material You in our member application, which is mostly using like the view system and XML to define these things. So it's like, as far as priorities, for one app, it's probably at the very bottom of things I care about in Android 12. And for another app, it's somewhere near the top where it's a newer application. So I think it would be cool if we could add some of the Material You things, especially since we're using Jetpack Compose.
Is there a point at which the app that it's lower priority suddenly gets to a higher priority for something like this?
It would.
Like what has to clear the way in order for that to rise up on an older app?
This is an easy answer. If Google says, we will give you better search ranking in the Play Store if your app has Material You theming. Incentives. Or we will feature the app somewhere, somehow, if it has Material You theming. Then I'd be like, whoa, everybody, stop what we're doing. let's get theming in.
Interesting, right. That makes perfect sense.
What is the incentive for developers who already moved to Material Design to go to Material You?
Well, to play devil's advocate, how many years ago was Material Design, right? And so the idea being is that, like, which by the way, I can't believe there's not everybody is on Material Design, but that is true. I've installed apps. I'm like, oh, that's not Material. But
2014, 7 years ago. 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. So Material Design's been out for 7 years. So you got to see Material You as like what if we trusted. Who was the guy behind Material Design? Duarte?
Suddenly blanking. Duarte, yeah.
Duarte.
Matthias Duarte.
And
there we go.
I can never forget Matthias Duarte because there's a Duarte in the Expanse novels. And whenever I read those books, I think of him, like I visualize.
You see his shirts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but so if we trusted him to tell us that that Material Design is the way, right? Then why are we skeptical, or why don't we trust Google when they tell us that Material You is now the way? And I know Burke, our technical director here, he's a big fan of Material You. He's a big fan of the chunkiness and a lot of the changes that were made on sarcastic.
You go ahead and put a /s after that for sarcasm.
But it's funny because like I feel as if like material design was so radically embraced by everybody, and like Jason, I remember us talking about how smart it seems and how great it is for designers. And Material You, I feel as if has been polarizing. And and Annyce, you make that good point. Like, what's the motivation? Nobody asked for their motivation for material design, so why do we need motivation for Material You? Is there something inherently wrong with it that we all that doesn't pass the smell test? Yeah.
I think the story is just different. For material design, it was like we're elevating Android to this new level of, and it was like all this like, oh, finally, we're getting some nice design like iOS. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. And look at all the ways that material design, just these few files, and we're going to change how the toggles look everywhere. It was like something revolutionary. And the story I'm hearing from Material You is like powered by the colors in your wallpaper.
Dot, 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 dot,
what else? Dot, dot. What else are you giving me?
Well, there's been a lot of pushback, from users that I've read too, where, Google's signaling messaging around Material You is that, this is a highly customized version of Android that understands you on a deeper level and can, kind of make your phone more for you. But then they point, these users point out, but the previous version of Android was actually way more customizable than the limited controls that I actually have now. Sure, the wallpaper changes dynamically, but what kind of access do I have to really customize this device without putting a new launcher on or any other number of things that didn't have to happen before? Right. So people are just never happy. There's just always going to be some people who are super excited and other people who just don't like to
talk about that. The thing I complained about last week, Annyce, I'm dying to ask you about. So these app splash screens, right? The app splash screen API. I definitely fall into the camp of so how do you and other developers you talk to and have worked with think of these splash screens? Do you think it helps things? Is there a justification for it, or is it just bells and whistles?
I think it does help. It makes it feel faster. Like, even if your app startup time is exactly the same, something about having the splash screen makes it feel faster. And if you can get your designer on board to create some sort of like animated drawable for you, it will be even cooler, because you can just imagine like there's a little something that's distracting your eyes while the app is loading in the background. And it doesn't feel weird, sort of like the forced splash screens that we had in the past. Yeah, it's like very smooth when I see the animation. Even now, we didn't do anything for our splash screen. I'm like, great, I like it. It's white with our logo. I'll love it until we can have a designer make something cooler. Sure, I'll be happy, but I personally love seeing the apps with this new splash screen. It makes them all feel like very smooth and a bit faster.
All right. I'm coming around to it. I guess I just feel like seeing just the app icon and that like kind of subtle animation happen. I want to see a custom bespoke kind of version of it.
Yeah.
So like knowing that they can use the API to do that, and they just haven't done that now. Now I'm going to keep an eye out for the developers that actually take the time to do that versus just the generic one or that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, like getting designers on board will be huge. To really like spice up these splash screens.
Yeah.
Always the case. Getting developers and designers on board to support the features that are there, and getting enough devices out there running, the OS.
Yes, true.
Because that's a driver, I have to imagine, of a lot of the decisions that you and your team make as well. Like, sure, it's supported in the new version of Android, but is the effort worth it compared to how many actual users are going to be using this versus a feature that hits everyone that we can focus our efforts on right now? That's part of the algebra of figuring out what you do and when. One last question about Android 12 before we move on, and that's around permissions. Year after year, the Android OS has a focus on permissions, and that's a great thing. It's enhancing our privacy and our security. Each year, it feels like there's more control for a user. And that's a great thing, especially right now, because so often in the news we're hearing about this company leaked our data or whatever. So people just it's almost like whether it's 100% effective or not, nothing's ever 100%. But as long as you can make someone feel like they have more control, it's like pushing the closed door button in an elevator. It makes them feel better to be able to push that door, even though it's not going to actually close the door. How do you and your teams? Maybe that's a horrible comparison, but how do your teams rationalize this the app permissions usage changes, and especially when you have kind of this growing visualization approach from Google in Android 12? How do you do that?
Yeah, personally, I am very excited about the permission dashboard. I was surprised when I saw how many apps have my contacts permission and that they were using it, like apps that I wouldn't even think. Like, well, why do they need my contacts? And I'm like trying to, rationalize to myself, like, what are they using the contacts permission for? Maybe it's for, storing my account or something. I don't know. What are they using it for? And almost like maybe 2 or 3 apps I thought about just uninstalling because I couldn't think of what they were using the permission for. So that being said, the fact that they are exposing this information to users in this sort of visual timeline fashion, it definitely makes me think more about the permissions that our app requests. Give you a very solid example. In the Meetup application, someone could say, add this event to my calendar. Previously, we used to request the calendar permission, and then we would try to integrate directly, let the person choose their calendar they want to use, and then put the event. Now I just fire an intent. So any app that can insert events, go for it, and let the person choose. And now we don't have to request the calendar permission anymore. And I feel that more businesses will start to think about this as well. Well, do we really need that permission? Do we need that granularity for the permission? And if not, let's just back off and do what we can via intents or with less specific permissions that users will feel are invasive, because it's going to be more in your face.
Yeah. And giving it sounds like with that new paradigm, the user is really kind of driving the experience, driving the decision making from the start. Yeah. It's not third-party app developer saying, I need this, give it to me. And the user saying, oh, well, do I feel comfortable giving it to you? It's the third-party app developer saying, this is what this action wants to do. How do you want to handle it? It's up to you to make the decision. And there's a difference in kind of the mental approach on the hand of the user. I think in both of those scenarios for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Good stuff.
Well, this is great. See? I love this perspective. Annyce, the perspective being in the trenches and working with other developers and working on such a huge app like Meetup, in this perspective, it's amazing because we theorize, I mentioned, I have a side project where we have an app. I'm not doing any of the coding. I asked somebody, hey, are we good with Android 12? And they said, yeah. And I said, great. So, so getting that kind of, it's a little more involved than that, but getting this kind of perspective, I just think is so inviable. So, Annyce, you awesome. Welcome to All About Android.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Woo, this is great.
Well, Annyce is not going anywhere, folks. Annyce is going to stick around and join us as we talk through some of the news that we were able to pull on this News Light week, let's say. But we found some really great stuff to talk about, so don't go anywhere. We need to thank the sponsor of this episode, and then we will get into some of that. This podcast is supported by AT&T Active Armor. Cooking between meetings, maybe helping with homework, walking the dog. We've all experienced life working from home. And I know for myself, it's distracting already. And then you finally get down to work, you start to focus, your phone rings. I had this happen today. I looked at my phone, I'm like, who is that? It's a fraud call. It takes you out of your moment. It takes you out of your forward progress. it's just not a good deal. So don't let fraud calls disrupt your flow. AT&T makes your security a top priority, helping block fraud calls with AT&T Active Armor. And it's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor, 24/7 proactive network security, fraud call blocking, and spam notifications to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. We thank AT&T for their support of All About Android. I'm sorry, Burke, we don't have a news bumper this week because it's all about hardware in this second block. Let's jump into hardware.
For the record, I'm not sorry at all. Just FYI.
Ouch.
All right. So up first on the hardware side, the aforementioned Google Pixel 6, which, by the way, I'm excited to announce here on the show that I'm going to be moving from the 4A to the Pixel 6 as my daily driver.
Very nice.
I'm making the jump. I'd kept the Pixel 6 in kind of a walled garden for testing and review purposes, but I'm going to make the jump and I'm going to switch full time to it. So more to come with my experience with the Pixel 6 as it's my daily phone. But listen, nothing's perfect, right? Is anything perfect? Come on, except the Nexus 5. The Nexus 5 was perfect, which hopefully we all can agree. Annyce, do you agree? Was the Nexus 5 a perfect phone?
I would have to say that it was very high quality.
It was.
It was a great device.
It was a great device. Anyway, so the Pixel 6 is great. It's not the Nexus 5. But listen, there have been some complaints, some frustrations. We've talked a lot on the show about the frustrations around the fingerprint sensor and the fingerprint scanner in the display. Some people have complained about a screen flicker issue, but don't worry, that's going to be addressed in the December security update. So that's good. Google's been very responsive to some of these complaints. But now, a multitude of users, a lot of them on Reddit and other sources were reporting Pixel 6s are ghost dialing people in your contact list. That's pretty cool. Turns out this appears to have been a Google Assistant bug as the cause of the issue. Google Assistant seems to be dialing random contacts even when the user is nowhere near the device. Users have disabled the assistant to prevent the calls from happening, which is a temporary fix. And Google has addressed this with a fix in the updated version of the Google app. So if you haven't, go install that now, unless you just want to have random phantom calls happen. But I got to tell you, not to rail on my YouTube Music Google Nest Hub problem, but like that problem is an assistant. Like, I think Assistant is the source of a lot of these kind of weird little problems. And here's another example where it's clearly mishearing something, or something is not, like it thinks it's hearing a direction to call someone and doing that when that's not happening. And that's further confirmed by Google saying that they got a fix for it. Like they found a problem with it. So things aren't perfect, really, I think, with the Assistant in general. I don't know. Annyce, how do you feel about Google Assistant in general? Do you use it, or can you live without it?
I mean, I do use it, but it's very specific cases. So it's like I'm laying in the bed and I don't want to pick up my phone and I want to just say like, okay, call my husband on speakerphone, So yep. I do use it in that scenario. And, this bug, yes, it is bad, but, lemonade out of lemons, like maybe you're reconnecting with a long lost friend.
Nice.
There you are, Fred.
It's been so long. I will guarantee that there are many people in my contact list that I do not want to call either willingly or unwillingly. So yeah.
that works for some, not for all, for sure.
Yeah.
The question that comes to mind for you, Annyce, for me, is around kind of the evolving complexity around apps, and I think Assistant is a really prime example of this. When Google launched Assistant initially, obviously there are ways in which Assistant has really improved over time immensely, But there are certain ways that, like my Google Home, when I first got my Google Home, it worked flawlessly. And now I feel like I can only point to the fact that Assistant and Google Home and, the Nest Hubs and whatever, they've all like evolved on one hand. But with that evolution comes this depth of complexity that, I don't know, from a coding perspective, keeping that all those lines, straight as it were. Like that just becomes a really, really big challenge. What do you think about like kind of this evolution of apps that go from useful to overly complex? And I don't know. What do you think about that?
It is almost so natural in software because there's one, you develop something and it's a big hit, and then someone says, but what about X? And then you add that. And you just keep adding and adding and adding till you create this sort of Frankenstein creature. And when it comes to things like voice assistants, I feel that we have to get it right. If I think about my kids, they always talking to their devices. It's like, hey, Siri, blah, blah, blah. Like it's just very natural for them. So I think the next generation will be more into voice control and expect apps to respond to voice and then take the appropriate action. So I feel like if anyone will get it right, it will be Google. So I'm not as worried about it, but I definitely know that it's a tendency. I mean, look at some software things like maybe Jira. It may start out simple and then someone's like, oh, I need a Kanban board. And it just keeps adding and adding and adding to you increase the complexity.
Yeah. I mean, well, and as a developer or a team of developers, I mean, ultimately you're creating something. And what, there aren't a whole lot of creators out there that are like, I have absolutely no more ideas. This is perfect the way it is, and it's going to stay this way for years, like, especially in the realm of code, like you kind of can't do that. You have to keep iterating and in order to kind of keep the energy and the attention on the app, you have to be adding new features because everybody else is.
Yeah, I mean, even simple things like think about a banking app. I want to see my balance. I want to move some money around. Okay, great. But now look at the banking apps of today. They do so many things that I wouldn't have even thought about before, right? Like, take a picture of your check. Great, it's deposited. Right. Oh, do you want to send some money to someone that's not even on this bank? Sure, we've got you covered. Do you want to set up a budget system? I mean, it's like they do all these things that...
You're right.
A couple of years ago, it was just show me the balance. Great. It was really... And they just keep evolving, even in spaces where you might think there's no more innovation to come.
Yeah, no question. I haven't had this bug, by the way. So just because you have a Pixel 6 or 6 Pro or you're getting one, Annyce, don't worry. Your contacts list will probably be untouched. Probably.
And also, Annyce, by the time you get it, it's already been fixed. So it's
yeah. It's just an updated Google app.
And for me, that's the thing that I think is really interesting, which is that Google is being very responsive with this. Not that they haven't been in the past, but like this issue came up and within like less than 24 hours, Google responded and had it moved very quickly over the weekend. Yeah. So good for them.
Yeah. Now, if you were buying the Galaxy Buds Pro, we might be having a different conversation here. This is a little unsettling, this story on Android Central from the author of the story, Chris Weedle. Weedle or Weddle, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. We'll have to get you on the show and you can correct us then. Wrote about his experience with the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro, Samsung's latest kind of like top of the line true wireless earbuds. Basically, he recounts in his article a number of times where he took these new buds. The first time he pops them in his ear, he used them for like an hour to listen to music, take some calls, whatever. Later on in that evening, he starts to get a little itchy in his ears. He woke the next morning and his ears were wet and crusty and gross. And so he's like, okay, what the heck's going on? Kind of nurses them back to health, doesn't use the earbuds. I don't know that at that point he had necessarily made the connection that it was indeed that. But then he talks about, time and time again, he's like, okay, well, I'll use them again. And then something happens. And then what you're looking at here, he ended up using one earbud in one ear. And that was like the final straw. He did that because he was just taking a call. And then sure enough, his ear was inflamed. That one ear was inflamed. He officially got an ear infection. Had a fever of 102. And apparently there are a lot of people complaining about this, or at least a number of people on Reddit and other places complaining about similar reactions. Turns out some of the materials in these earbuds might be different from the materials that Samsung had used in the past. For example, nickel on the charging contacts could be one of them. Acrylate as well, which previous to this model, it was acrylic. So I apologize. I don't actually know the difference between the two, but there are differences in the materials of what they're using in this earbud versus previous ones. So, I think what this is like proof positive of Ron's aversion of putting these things in his ear. This is like worst case scenario, right, Ron?
Worst case scenario is what's happened to me, which is I got one of them stuck inside my ear.
That is pretty bad.
Emergency room, yeah. That's the worst case scenario. This is right up there, though. This is like just as bad case scenario, and that's the thing. And I don't want to mess with this stuff.
Yeah, that's very gross. I'm definitely an over ear person.
As I can see, what headphones are you using, Annyce?
I'm super curious.
By the way,
your audio is amazing with those things.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm borrowing these from LinkedIn. So, I make some videos for them occasionally, and I don't even know what this is actually. I'd have to like search, but wait. Before I turn to the side, can you see? Or no?
If you turn the other way, this
kind of. I mean,
can you zoom in there? Is that Sennheiser?
Burke, enhance.
I know I can't enhance. A little bit closer. Wait, maybe I can. I can do this. Wait.
Okay, Burke has some magic. He can do a digital zoom. Looks like Sennheiser would be my guess. I don't know.
Okay, tilt your head up a little bit.
Biodynamic.
Something dynamic.
Biodynamic?
Biodynamic.
Oh, that's even better.
For our audio listeners, Burke has zoomed in on the side of Annyce's head to look at the logo on her headphones that she is using, which are biodynamic. So,
I mean, they sound amazing. I have to say, like, we were actually marveling in our back channel chat, like, what headset is she using? I need to know, because that audio sounds like it's coming from like a normal, like, standard microphone, not a headset.
Yeah,
mic, so.
I love these. And then like my day-to-day work, I just use like the Bose noise canceling, because I work from home in my office, and I have my family who's always making noise. So it's great to just kind of have those on, and I forget that they're even out there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, right on. Cool. I'm happy we asked. We were either going to ask you post show or during the show, so it came up on the headphones block, and that works too. So
if we're in the hardware block, that works.
Yeah, it works. Totally works.
So one last story here before we move on. Much with not graphic photos. There's a blown up but still pretty small Palm Pre lookalike out in the wild now called the Balmuda Phone, not Bermuda Phone, Balmuda, and it was announced in Japan. Balmuda, Balmuda, is a Japanese appliance company now making a phone. Look at them expanding. Looks like a tiny phone. The Balmuda Phone is the only smartphone whose proportions do not include any straight lines. And that's directly from their marketing materials. And let me tell you, this phone has got some curves, all right? It's got a 4.8-inch 1080p display. Jason, I can't remember the last time we talked about a phone that was less than 5 inches. So that's just 4.8 inches is crazy. It's running a Snapdragon 765 with 6 gig of RAM, 128 gig of storage, and it's shipping with Android 11. Wah wah. But like, if you look at we're looking at the photos here on the video of this episode. So audio listeners, I apologize, but like the back has got like this nice smooth curved kind of design. And Jason, it actually reminds me of a phone from way early on in Android. I can't remember which one, but there was a phone that was a similar kind of like rounded back to this, and it's gonna drive me crazy now.
It was the Pre.
Was it the Pre?
Yeah,
the Pre definitely had kind of a rounded quality to it. The Moto X had that as well, and actually the Moto X had a 4.7-inch display as well. So this is kind of like a Moto X.
Yeah,
it's adorable.
Kind of is, yeah,
it is.
So, it's pretty neat.
Look at that nubbin. Cute little phone.
Right.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of, what was that? The Jelly phone. Do you remember? I mean, this was years ago and all about Android lore. But the Jelly phone, it was like the phone that was like literally, it's like that big.
I remember that one. Yep.
The tiny little, by Unihertz, I think. This is definitely larger than that. But so here you go.
I love random phones like this. This is so funny. Look at how they work the backgrounds of the phone into the design. That's so cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks good. Annyce, we may have found your alternative to the Pixel 6.
I know.
You were wanting something smaller. This is smaller.
Or I should just get one of the little foldables.
Yeah,
I will
well,
say
yeah.
I did.
Right?
I was in Best Buy over the weekend, getting a birthday present for my brother-in-law, and I walked by the Samsung display and I played with both of the foldables because you remember last week, Jason, I was saying I was really tempted, really tempted. They are nice. I will give Samsung credit. They've got some real nice phone feel. Like the flip feels nice in your hand. Like I know, Jason, you thought I was more for the fold because I want the wider tablet thing, but that flip, it felt like a Star Trek communicator. That's what it felt like.
Yeah,
which is like the nerd dream, right? We all want to.
I know how important that is to you, Ron. Yeah,
it is. It's really important. So.
To get the future communicator. So then, Annyce, this leads into another question that I think is just fun to ask developers around these foldables, because this is definitely the next wave. We talked very briefly earlier that Google has Android 12L on the horizon. It's going to be a focus, more of like an Android 12 update, but designed to improve the landscape for developers creating for foldable devices. Where does that sit or rest in this priority list that we were talking about earlier? How important are foldables to you guys right now?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I think back to when they launched tablet design, and I was so excited. I was like, we have to design for tablets. This is the next thing. This is the next big thing. And, we started pulling out all the stops to make sure you can develop for tablets. And they had the medium, the large, and all this kind of tablets. And then it just sort of fizzled. Never really took off. So for us, unless more people have foldables, I don't think it will be a priority. It will have to be some developer's side project that they got a foldable and they're like, I just want it to look right on my phone. Like that may be the only way that it happens.
And it's got to reach critical mass. It's got to become. And so, Annyce, let me ask you this: when, and not if, when Google announces the Pixel foldable, will that move the needle at all?
I don't know. Well, it'll have to be like maybe 2 years from now. I think it might. Yeah.
I think you're right. It's going to be a while before getting prices. I still think we're one generation away from it being we're one generation away from it being an option for most users. Right now, I still think it's a bit too expensive. And we're 2 generations away from it being a no-brainer.
Yep. That's what I think.
That's my guess.
Burke, I'm going to go ahead and throw you a curveball. You got that breaking news bumper ready? I hope you got it ready. And then look at line 28 underneath the Balmuda phone that we were just talking about. I got a link for you. But it's time for some breaking news. There we go. There we go. I don't know how breaking it is. This just reminded me this was a story that I didn't put in. And so it's breaking because it wasn't in the doc until just now. But... dear friend of the show, Florence Ion. Do you remember Flo? She was on a couple of months ago. She's taking a break right now. Well, she wrote for Gizmodo that there was a report that I read earlier today that said that the Fold might not come out. It might. Supply orders, there's supply information saying that it might actually not happen. Who knows if that's true?
I don't trust that Florence Ion. I'm not sure as a journalist if she's trustworthy. No, I'm choosing not to believe these rumors.
Yeah.
They're not going to cancel Android 12L, are they? Right? Like,
no. I mean, well, the speculation is that, again, like companies like Google will often create things internally because they help them to design like Android 12L, right? Like that gives them a reference device with which to put it on. Maybe they decide, well, this doesn't necessarily need, like there's not enough market out there to go through all of the effort that we need to bring this to market. Let's just keep it internal like that. That's
Samsung already did all the work.
Yeah, well, that and Samsung has the ability to, do a million different types of devices and release them. And I mean, Samsung's a different hardware creator than Google has the capacity to be. Google wants to be more, but they're by no means at Samsung level yet. So Samsung can afford to create these things that are so successful. it might be a little bit harder for Google. Anyways, that's all speculation. But Flo, we got you in the show.
Yeah.
Sorry to
I don't
disappoint
like
you,
it.
Ron.
I don't like it, but it's she's here, so
It is what it is, and it might not be anything. We might still see the Pixel Fold. Only time will tell. And if we do, we'll be talking about it here on this show. All right, coming up next, we've got some app-related news. I say app-related because it's not like we have 3 stories about new apps necessarily. This is where like my scrounging for stories for us to talk about. I was like, all right, well, these have to do with apps. They're like, kind of related to apps. So, and this first story I thought would be interesting, especially because we have you on, Annyce. I'm curious to know your take on this. But a new app behavior is here as of Android 12. This was actually announced during the Android Dev Summit a few weeks ago. I missed it, but I thought it was kind of an interesting thing to bring up here. Android 12 apparently handles app links differently than it did before. App links, if you aren't familiar, these are deep links that launch content into an associated app. At least my understanding is, for example, you click on an Instagram link on a web page on your smartphone, and instead of opening that Instagram page inside of the browser, the device can recognize, oh, that's an Instagram link. We should open the Instagram app and pull up that page inside of the app. That's my understanding of app links. Am I accurate on that, Annyce?
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
Hey, score. So the difference here is that with Android 12, developers can manually verify how the system treats Android app links. And to extend beyond that, if a developer has not manually verified how that system treats those links, Google will default the action to the default browser. So unverified links are always going to open inside of the default browser. And apparently that's different from the way it's been before. I have to imagine this has something to do with kind of security and security. Giving Google more capability of protecting the user or keeping track of these things that might be unintentional or whatever. I guess my question for you, Annyce, is when it comes to something like this like operational difference in how things like this function inside of the app that you create, for example, is that a pain point when something like this happens? Are you happy? What are your thoughts on it? I don't know how to phrase the question.
Yeah, I think, am I happy? Yes, I'm happy for users that they can have more security. I'm happy that someone doesn't have to click on a link and then be taken to a malicious app, potentially. So,
Sure.
in general, I'm always happy about these sort of changes. Operationally, what does this mean for us? Normally, when they make these type of changes, they've already been giving us warning for at least 1 or 2 or 3 releases of the OS. So it's not like a complete surprise when they say, oh, okay, from now on, we're going to do it this way, because they already normally start with recommendations, probably 2 or 3, OSs ago. And then it's like, we're going to give you a warning and a notice. And then finally, okay, this is the new behavior you didn't expect, but here it is. Yeah. So one nice thing, though, about Android Studio is there is an app assistant tool capability where you can test your links, and it will let you know okay, yes, we were able to verify this. This is going to call this sort of activity, and then you can see how it behaves in your app. So at least for developers, they have a one-stop shop in Android Studio to make sure they're verifying their app links and the behavior that they want.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
all right.
Yeah. At least to have some insight into that. And you're right. That's it's easy for us on the outside to think that these are changes that happen so suddenly that developers always caught flat-footed and everything. What comes to mind to me is, oh man, what was it? It had to do with the file system, and I'm trying to remember the exact name of it, where Google in Android 11 had rolled out the change to where apps could only see inside of their own file structure for the associated app and not outside of it. And they had it as part of the beta, And then they ended up undoing it and only with Android 12 officially launching it, from my understanding, because developers were like, all right, this is really complicated to work around. I'm trying to remember what the name was for that. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It may have been the file provider. I know there was a new API that they had launched called like File Provider, where you can access the files. And they also changed the way the storage works now to like protect the storage of the device so not all the apps can access things.
That's what it was. Scoped storage.
Scoped
storage.
Yep.
Scope storage. I was just about to say that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. They did that too. Scope storage was kind of a surprise, maybe. Like yes and no. There were some hints and warnings, but then it was like, boom.
Right. And I mean, it must not be often that Google does something like that, goes through all the effort to make that change, and then kind of undoes it due to unpopular demand. Due to everybody being like, no, wait a minute, don't like this. This is really screwing us.
It's like on the list. You know how I say every release, there's this long list of all the things that change. Like new file provider and scope storage. It's been on the list. But people are like, oh, okay, I don't think that affects me. And they just move on to the next release until finally they're like, yeah, remember that thing 3 releases ago? We're enforcing it now.
It turns out it affects us big time. Okay.
Yep.
Good to know. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. All right, Ron, you got the next one.
So in terms of things that Google releases and announces and things like that and launches, Google launched an app called Relate. And the purpose of the app is to voice train Assistant at wide scale for voices that are difficult to understand. And as someone with a Long Island accent, I feel like I might fall under that category. No, but honestly, I shouldn't be a jerk here. It's for making it inclusive for people with neurological conditions that impact speech. Volunteers record 500 phrases, about 30 to 90 minutes of content, and share those voice samples with Google. Then the app will transcribe their speech in real time and also repeat what the user said, but in a clear, synthesized voice. The app connects to Assistant for things like home control and other Assistant functions, and this seems like a really great thing to do for those who are limited by their ability to use voice control if their voice is affected due to a neurological or physical condition that impacts their speech. So this is actually pretty great of Google to be doing. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's a good opportunity for Google also to just really get some really focused samples around all the different ways that everybody speaks. It kind of ties into the broader conversation around kind of AI training and how so often these AI systems are trained a specific way because no one on the inside. At least our understanding anyways from the outside looking in is that no one on the inside thought to say that, oh, wait a minute, there are different, not everybody is a pasty white dude on the internet, right? Like there are people who look, entirely different from each other. And that isn't just and in this case, sound different. It isn't just limited to this small group or whatever. It's, we want to represent everybody, and putting this into an app and allowing everybody to kind of participate and then bringing these features that actually enhance the assistant. It sounds like enhance the assistant immediately after the fact. Like, I think that's a no-brainer. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, good stuff. And, good. We were talking earlier about, assistant and, its complexity and everything. But I suppose this might even fall into that category too, right? Like, we're always looking to make these things better. This also has runs the risk of making Assistant more complex, and that could possibly pose problems or challenges for the developers on the other end. But that doesn't mean it's something that shouldn't be done. Like, this is super important.
Right.
So, yeah. So I'm good. I'm happy to hear about that.
Cool.
And then finally, this is a super quick one. Android TV. I don't know if you've ever installed many apps on Android TV when you're doing it on the screen, but it's not nearly as convenient as it is. Like, if you're on a desktop browser and you go to an app, you can install remotely to your Android TV device from your desktop browser, but you can never do it from your phone, which I never really understood. I was like, why can you do that on the desktop? You can't do it on a mobile phone. And apparently now they're putting through an update on the Play Store to make it so that you can. So on your smartphone, you can navigate to an app and say, install this on my Android TV device, and boom, it'll send it over. Way easier than doing it through the on-screen approach. So do you have an Android TV device, Annyce? Are you in that realm at all?
I'll be honest, I have no idea. Like, it's some kind of smart TV, but I don't know which one it is. Like, I don't even really pay attention. I think it's like an LG smart something. So it could be running Android.
It's probably. I mean, it could be. I'm guessing that it's probably Android's or LG's. What do they call it? I think they actually call it Smart OS or Smart OS or Smart TV.
I think it's Smart TV. It's just Smart TV. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, LG Smart TV with Web OS is what they call it, which is confusing because I see Web OS and I think of Palm.
That's the one.
Yeah. So that is not Android, but I've seen that one.
That's not Android. Okay. Yeah. All right.
They all look so similar nowadays.
They are. Yeah. I mean, I used to have one. I used to have one of the original Google TVs that had like the big keyboard. And how like you're walking around like this.
I loved it. Loved it.
Your keyboard.
So much power.
Powerful.
So much power in your living room.
So powerful. Like, wait a minute, who has the keyboard? Give me the keyboard.
So cool. Hey, Jason, fun fact: the LG Smart TV with WebOS is in fact running WebOS.
So it's actual WebOS. It's not just something that they market.
WebOS, also known as LG WebOS, has previously known as Open WebOS, HP WebOS, and Palm WebOS.
So
there it is.
So that's the evolution of WebOS is LG smart TVs.
And also, I dare anybody to say WebOS multiple times in a row. WebOS.
You kind of sound like Elmer Fudd when you say WebOS. Just saying.
Does Huawei run WebOS?
Oh God, no! Don't do it. You're crossing the streams now. That's amazing. Oh boy. Okay. All right. Coming up, we've got some of your emails to answer. AAA at twit.tv 347 show AAA. Ron, you've got the first one.
Yeah, our first email stays on topic with the Pixel 6. We're staying on brand here. Brady writes in and says, I got my Pixel 6 last week. My wife and oldest daughter have Pixel 4a phones right now. I forgot that Google Photos Unlimited Storage is no longer included with the new Pixel phones as of earlier this summer. So now I'm wondering, what should I do with photo storage? Google One, Amazon Photos, OneDrive, something else? Right now, this only applies to me, but I want to make a reasonable choice now so I don't put myself in a corner when the other phones in my house are upgraded to newer handsets and we eventually have 5 phones in our family that all need photo and video backups as my younger kids get old enough to have a phone as well. In addition to Google, there have been a lot of other changes in this space. Plex dropped their camera backup already this year. Amazon has unlimited photos for Prime members included for free, but not unlimited video. I already pay for M365 for the Office suite, which has 1 terabyte of data backup from Microsoft. Google has all of my photos to date as a loyal Nexus and Pixel user for the past decade, so that seems like the easy path to go. But will Google One survive? Are they going to release Google 2 tomorrow and have competing products? A little sarcasm there. Thanks, Brady. Have you used Google One in a family account setting yet? It's hard to deny that the facial recognition, past memories auto adjust, and other fancy photos in the existing Google Photo offering are really good. But what are you planning to do about photo backups now that we're in the post-free photo backup realm? And these are all great questions. I'm going to start it off, and then I'm going to throw it to you, Jason, and you, Annyce, for what your thoughts are. But I did purchase Google One associated with my account, not because I no longer had free storage or whatever, but because I actually had a Gmail account that was registered in the early 2000s that ran out of space, and I needed to unlock more space. And so now I'm in the ecosystem, and I have no plans to move off of Google Photos. Because to your point, the photo recognition, the library, all the features, the sharing stuff, all that sort of stuff, it just works for me, and I see the value there, and I don't mind paying for it. So,
yeah, agreed. I mean, I've got the Google One subscription. I've got 200 gigs, which is, I mean, it's like $2.99 a month. It's really not that expensive. Yeah. And yeah, what's up?
Now there is an option, something called Synology, and Burke, I'll put it in the chat. Synology is, you can do a self-hosted photo archive. So basically, if you set up a NAS drive at home, you can install Synology on it and transfer all your stuff from Google Photos over to it, and it gives a very Google Photos like solution that you could then you will own your photos, and this is a way to manage your photos and access them, have a timeline view. It doesn't have all of the bells and whistles that Google Photo has. Like, it doesn't have facial recognition and all that sort of stuff. It does have the ability to filter by different properties, and you can also have either your own personal storage space or shared space with family. So that is an option if you wanted to spin up your own version. Your own solution there. So, and
in fact, I did an episode of Hands on Tech on this last year. How to switch to a Synology NAS as a Google Photos alternative. That's what I do. I have Google One subscription. All of my photos go to the cloud, to Google's cloud. I figured $2.99 a month, like whatever. Like, I don't care. I'm happy to pay that. I haven't run out of space yet. Once I hit that 200 gigs, I'm going to have to consider ponying up for the $10 a month plan, which gets you, I think, is it a terabyte? I think, and then I'll be good to go, totally good to go. $10 a month is considerably more than $10 a month is considerably more than $3 a month, but still. Oh, there I am wearing glasses. But then I also have a Synology NAS here. So basically, all my photos on my phone, on my wife's phone, any of our devices, they go two places all the time. They're going to Google's cloud. They're going locally to our NAS storage. And that works really well for us. And it gives us 2 points of, now we're actually backing them up. They're going to two different places. So if we lose one, we've got the other. I'm curious to know what your photo solution is, Annyce. Like, where have you settled on this as the changes have happened over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I also pay for Google One. I don't have a problem with that. I'm also a person that pays for, every little subscription. So I have, Dropbox and Evernote and, you name it. I have all kinds of things where I can back up my things. I don't know if it's that I'm paranoid or it's like, oh, I can have a little extra storage. Okay, I'll just put some photos in Dropbox for now. Or, I'll just put a few photos in iCloud or whatever.
Might as well.
So, yeah, but I definitely pay for Google One as well.
Yeah. It's one of those things where the service is valid enough. And to your point, Jason, it doesn't, and Lord knows, times are tough. Definitely, pandemic, who knows how people have been affected, who knows what Brady does for a living, how he's been affected by it. He's got kids, he's got a family. I understand that. But $2.99 is a cup of coffee. Like, that's one trip to Starbucks, like, you avoid, and it gives you so much value that you clearly are using. So that's why I say stick with it. Yeah, agreed.
And that's the worry and the concern. I understand. Like, are they going to change it, roll something out? But we've survived Google Play Music becoming YouTube Music. We'll survive that. If it happens. So.
If we can survive that, we can survive anything. I do think that there's a difference between some of their services versus something like Google One. Google One feels like, as a whole, the Google kind of like backup system. Like, I'd be really surprised, although you never know with Google, but I'd be really surprised if they suddenly said, Google One's going away. What are you going to do with all your data now? Like, there's so much like enterprise investment in it as well. It's tied in, in so many different places. I'd be super surprised if it ever went away, but you just never know. That's the problem, I suppose. Ken writes in to say, just an update. So Ken, let's see here. Okay, so I'll read his email first. Just an update. Last night, I was away from my phone for a bit. When I picked it up, I had a message that a new Android 12 update had been downloaded and I needed to restart to apply it. After rebooting, I now have the November security update. Was it coincidental that I got the update a day after AAA used its powerful beacon to shed light on the issue? We may never know. And this had to do with Ken having the unlocked Pixel 6 on Verizon, not getting the update. We talked about this last week on the show and answered Ken's email, and discuss this. And what do you know? A day later, it happened. I like to think that Verizon is a big fan of the show. And they were like, we weren't going to do this, but we heard it on All About Androids. Okay, fine. That would also explain why apparently the update went out accidentally to a bunch of non-Verizon phones to unlocked Pixel users. So maybe that actually happened. They were like, let's just do it. It was on All About Android. We'll just push the update out. And they didn't cross their T's and dot their I's, So I understand. That's what I like to believe anyways. So I'm happy that you got the update, Ken. I will say I had mentioned last week that the Pixel 6 that I had here, I could not get working with my wife's SIM on Verizon, and I wondered if there was any way to get it working. I ended up taking the phone into Verizon and saying, give me a new SIM. I don't know what's up with this SIM, but I think the problem's with the SIM. And they popped a new SIM in there, and sure enough, text messages started coming through. So sometimes the problem is just the SIM, apparently.
It happens, yeah.
Yeah. So, it works. So good stuff.
Cool.
All right. Ron, you got the last one.
Now it is a great moment, a moment of every episode that we all look forward to, that we all strive for. It's this week's Email of the Week. There it is. And this week's email comes from our very own Jason, who wrote in.
Hi.
No, it's just it's somebody whose name is Jason, and he gets the Email of the Week with this email. Jason says, on Friday morning, I received a text message from my bank asking if I was attempting to make a purchase. I was not, so I rejected the charge, which resulted in my debit card being canceled. I then called my bank to make sure a new debit card was to be sent to me. When the automated system said it was going to be a 30-minute wait to talk to someone, I almost hung up. But there on my screen was a message, let Google hold for you. I thought, why not? This seems like a perfect opportunity to see how well this works. Let me tell you guys, it worked perfectly. I hit the button, put the phone on my wireless charge while I worked. There was a little text box that kept me updated if anything was happening. It mostly said, quote unquote, playing music the whole time. Then 18 minutes and 47 seconds into the call, I heard a loud chime. My screen lit up and I hit the button to re-enter the call. And there was the customer service rep. He helped me with my issue and I didn't have to listen to their terrible hold music for 18 minutes. Don't know if you had a chance to check out this feature, but I was impressed at how well it worked. Thanks for 550 plus shows. Here's to many more. Congratulations, Jason, because not only did you use the best of Google, but it got you the Email of the Week. I would really like to know what this experience is like on the customer service side. So when they answer when they start the call, does it say, hang on, this is Google, I'm waiting for somebody? Do you then put them on hold? Is it a role reversal kind of thing? I don't know. Have either of you, Annyce, have you used this feature in the Assistant yet? Or?
I've used it. Yeah, I've used it. And I wanted to see how they reacted, but there was no reaction. Almost nothing happened. I was just like, oh, hello. They're like, oh, yes, hi. Get out. And I'm like, oh, so, okay, great. Anyway, here's my issue I've been waiting for 25 minutes. It's great. It really works perfectly.
As someone who has worked at a call center, I know they were probably just dead inside. They were like, I don't care. Are you there? Okay, good. I hated that job. I so hated working at a call center. But I'm super curious about that too, what they get on the other side. That's probably exactly what they get, Ron. I'm guessing is please hold. Google is has you. I don't know if Google is holding the line for so and so, or I don't know.
I will say that this morning yesterday morning I had to make a doctor's appointment and I spent 20 minutes on hold. And I didn't even think to look for this button. I don't know if it showed up because I feel like I would have hit it, but I just put it on speaker and just went about my business. And then I made the appointment and then I realized I made it for the wrong time. I had to call back and change it, waited another 20 minutes. So I wish I had done this. But I also don't think, had I done this, I don't think the person on the other end of the phone would have reacted in any way because I made a fantastic dad joke that you would have loved, Jason, and got no reaction because I was going to see an orthopedic surgeon about my knee. And the woman on the other end of the phone said, and this is about your right knee? And I said, yep, my right knee, although right now it's the wrong knee. and then it was just silence. And then I was just like, and then I went, oh, tough crowd. And she said, no. She goes, no, I heard it. I didn't want to chuckle though because I didn't want to reward you for a bad joke. And I said,
fair enough.
This person must be related to me.
Oh,
she hears
that's
it
great.
all the time. That's why she hears it all. That she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Oh, the right knee, left knee joke. Okay,
Yeah.
Right knee, wrong knee joke.
yeah. So, anyway,
Good one.
yeah.
Good work. And Jason, good name. That's a smidgen of the reason why you are the email of the week. But really, it was your awesome story. Thank you, Jason. And thank you, Annyce Davis. It's such a pleasure getting you on the show. We have to have you back. You were so much fun to hang out with tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, as we've talked about throughout the show, you and your team work at Meetup.com. If you want to if people want to follow what you're up to, where do you want them to go? And this is kind of your opportunity to plug really anything you have going on. If you have something on the horizon that you want to talk about, by all means, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the best way to get in contact with me is on Twitter, at BrownGirlDev. I'm pretty active on Twitter, so if you find me on Twitter, hey, you'll probably get a response.
Cool. Right on. Thank you, Annyce. So much fun. Really nice to meet you tonight.
Yeah.
And Ron, it's nice to meet you for the 551st time.
Hey, Jason, congratulations on the email of the week, a fellow Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had to disguise myself and pretend like I didn't write that email, but
it's a member from the League of Jasons. Most people don't know that it's a secret cabal of Jasons who are infiltrating all of technology and tech podcasts.
Come on, don't tell them that. Don't tell them.
Anyway, so yeah, go follow me on Twitter after you follow Annyce. I'm at RonXO on Twitter. I'm also RonXO on Instagram. And I have nothing fun to report to you all. I've just been working very, very hard lately, and I'm really looking forward to next week's holiday because I need some time. So.
Yes. We got the holiday right around the corner, at least here in the U.S. anyways. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Burke, for everything that you do for this show each and every week. Thank you, Victor, for everything you do for this show each and every week. We could not do this show without you awesome people. So thank you. And, I already mentioned it earlier, but go to my Twitter profile at Jason Howell. You'll see a link at the top if you want to jump out to my Movember fundraise. That's why you see these things on my face. Although I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I don't hate it. I don't hate what I'm seeing here. And I kind of thought I was going to hate it. I think it's just different. You know what it is? I'm used to living my life looking at babyface Jason, and now there's like a difference on my face, and it's kind of nice to see a difference. So that's what it is. Anyways, it's not about my facial hair. It's about raising awareness for mental health and men's health. And just go to my Twitter profile. You'll see the link up there if you want to contribute at Jason Howell. Club Twit is our ad-free subscription tier. So if you go to twit.tv/clubtwit, you can find all of our shows if you subscribe with no ads. You also get access to an exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed, tons of extra content in there that we throw in there, from pre-show stuff and extra Q&As. And there's a book club coming up this Friday with Stacey Higginbotham and Aunt Pruitt. And then we also have a members only Discord that you get access to as well. So many benefits. $7 per month. twit.tv/clubtwit. That's it for this week's episode of All About Android. You can subscribe to the show by going to twit.tv/AAA. We do this show every Tuesday evening. So if you are subscribed, you'll get it automatically in your podcatcher of choice sometime late evening, early morning the following day, waiting for your morning commute or just for you to wake up and put your headphones in. Twit.tv/AAA. But that's it for this week. We'll see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody. Have a good week.
I don't know why I go high-pitched when I say goodbye. Bye.
So you got yourself the brand new latest and greatest iPhone or Samsung smartphone because you heard about all of the beautiful photography those things can create, but for some reason you're just not quite getting it done when you try to make your photos. Or you got yourself a brand new camera because you were interested in getting started in photography, but your little new inexpensive camera still isn't quite cutting it. Well, you need to check out my show, Hands on Photography, here on Twit. I'm going to show you how to be a better photographer and a better post-processor, and quite frankly, just help you get the most out of that new camera that's either on your phone or the brand new one that you just got for your birthday or gifts or what have you. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So head on over to twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP and subscribe today.